Okay, so we're going to go into the system. First thing the user is presented with this system is an opportunity to select a customer or a patient name. All the fields here are customizable, and the Medicare number is just a holding place. The user is then given a history. These are all of the scans of this particular patient and that particular right arm horizontal or left arm horizontal. If you want to look at one of those, you can select it, the information is brought, and you can see that this is a fairly comprehensive scan. You'll note the green point is the reference scale, so any measurements exist relative to that measurement scale, but in a perpendicular line. What I mean by that is, that's the 0. That's 100, 200, and so forth and so forth. Each one of these lines is parallel. It's perpendicular to our original reference plane. Now, the reference plane can be set by the end user to be just about anywhere on the image, but in this case it's doing exactly what we want it to do. It's giving us a very clear banding along the patient's arm and even up onto their nose and body that shows us the numbers that we want. Now, if we go back to the main system, you'll see here there's a pink line. That's showing you where the cursor is currently selected. Now, that also relates to this, which is a circumference drawing running parallel to the original reference plane through the model right there. Equally, these are the numbers. You'll see here that says distance 161. Down here, distance is 161. That's what we've selected. We're going to come back to that. And along here, millimeter by millimeter, it shows you what is the circumference at that point and what is the two-dimensional surface of this circle here. Not the total area between here and here, just the area of this circle. So it's a slice. It's a sub-millimeter thin slice. We can do anything we like with these numbers. Once we've captured them, we can compare them, we can aggregate them, we can select them. There's an awful lot we can do once we've actually got it digitized. Now, coming back to our original chart, if I click in the model, I select a point, 174, 205, or all the way back here at 6. Okay, so there's a red line that shows here it's 6. That's, well, it's slightly more, and that's also shown here. And if I zoom in, you'll see that it's right there on the reference plane. It's hard to get it when it's, there you go, it's there. Now, because the model isn't absolutely perpendicular, there is sometimes a slight overlap point, but that's not a particularly major issue because it's designed as an indicator. It's not designed to be a tool of reference or a tool to capture space. That's done down here. So, for example, if I wanted to know what the area is between the 100th and the 123rd millimeter away from that reference plane, I can add that in. It highlights it. It tells me what the answer is. So the three-dimensional volume between 100 and 123 is now known. And that's, as you see, shown up here as a yellow band. So the volume 955.5 is what is totally under the area of that yellow band. So what we're going to do now is acquire a new scan. I've clicked on the left, acquire a new scan underneath the patient's name. In this case, it's Frank Bunce. And we're being told this is the first one of the day, so it's giving me the starting the camera. And you'll see that there are 4 images. Each one represents the 4 cameras. That one, you'll see the floor is in the background. It's looking straight down. This one is a sideways look. This one is a sideways look. That's actually me in the background. And this one is looking up at the roof. Now, you'll notice that each one of these faces, red, blue, orange, and green, is marked by a series of spots. These are the calibration markers, and in fact, the device that's in the system at the moment is the calibration cylinder. It's somewhat different because it's got on top of it a double adapter. I put that there to show the effectiveness of this, which is the circumference measuring device at a later date. So I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say now when I press the go button, and you'll see how quickly it comes up. Now the period of time between when I say now and when I'm in the next iteration is the period of time that the patient will have to have their arm perpendicular to the ground in the rig. Now, this is nominally milliseconds. So here we go. You've positioned the patient. Their arm is pretty much in the middle, pretty much horizontal, pretty much aligned in each of those photos. So I'm pushing it now, and we're starting the data acquisition, and it's done. So that beep noise that you just heard after I push the button to start it is when the patient can take their arm away. So when the operator's doing the actual capture, they can say, when you hear the computer go bling, you can take your arm away, like that. So here we go. The 3D model is now loaded. And here it is. This is the outline. I like the black and white because it gives me clear ability to identify issues or potential issues with the outside of the captured image. Now the lighting is pretty rotten in here at the moment. You've got quite light on one side and quite dark on the other side. If I wanted to get a better view of that, there's a button down here that I can press which brings back the colors. Now you'll see that this is all mesh-like. That's perfectly fine. Don't interpret that as poor imaging. It's not. It's actually now a 3D model. It's not a photograph that you're looking at all. Every single thing on here is a point, a documented, identifiable point. We know where it is in real time and real space. By that I mean, you could say that this point here has a coordinate of X number, Y number, and Z number, and a time. That's really, really important because this is the one difference that a photograph does not have. Photograph will tell you the time, but it can't give you an X and a Y and a Z coordinate. None of the points on a photograph have any form of identification as a unique point, and they don't have any form of location either. The other advantage of this being a model rather than a photograph is that the mathematics in the system is allowing for scale. Any photograph that you see doesn't have any scaling built into it. You only know by using your eyeball how far the object away is from the camera lens. This, on the other hand, we know exactly how far away it is, and that means that we can adjust for scale and distortion. So we all know that there's parallax, distortion, and all sorts of things like that. Because we know where everything is, we can actually put it in its right and proper place rather than have it appear to be distorted or in a different spot. That's also really important for the end product. Back in the model now, in the system. As always, we have a nice view of the model here on the top right hand side. You can see there that double adapter that I included. Now, the imaging isn't bad. It's not perfect, but again, remember, the light's crap. You don't see the little tongs, and that's one of the reasons why we can't do fingers. Okay, so what are we going to do? First things first, we've got to tell the computer where is everything. So we have an opportunity to select the lower and the upper measurement limits, or just the upper measurement limits. In this instance, I'm going to do the upper limit because I'm feeling a bit lazy, but it's also really good if you've got a hard cutoff in your image that you don't need to worry. So what I do is I find the spot which is the furthest spot from that green reference plane that I told you, and then I mark it using the mouse. The way I select the point is I push the control button and then I just do a left click. The system goes away and it creates these lines that we saw before on the last image. So here's the reference plane. It's down here. It's not on the model part of the image, because remember, it looks at everything. It doesn't discriminate. Later on, George has built systems to cut out all the outliers and things like that. But the truth is, it's just a photograph with lots of points on it, or an image or a system with lots of points on it. It's not actually a photograph. So we see here the circumference diagram is usable or is accessible. If I go into here, the pink line appears. Now, the pink line, you can see, that's a great spot there, is quite clearly identifying that power double adapter there. So it's quite accurate. Don't worry that that's all distorted. That's actually corrected for in the error correction within the system. It's simply just a raw image that we can look at the moment. All the numbers are here as we discussed before. The chart, you can select it here. And the numbers are as well. So that's a quick, for your eyes only, internal summary of what's going on and how things are working.